Shalom, it's Michael Israel. You're watching Spiritual Combat, and today we're talking about navigating the emotional storm. It doesn't occur to most people that when you're in the midst of strong emotions and turmoil, that you can navigate through that. And in this show, we're gonna really get granular about what that really means, what it looks like. We're gonna tie it into the word and everything like that. Um, when a ship's at sea, an experienced ship captain, one of the things they have to know how to do is how to navigate through a storm. When there's a storm at sea and those big waves are coming in, one of the things they have to do is point the ship into the big wave that's coming. And by doing that, they will hit the wave the right way so that it doesn't sink the ship. Well, it's the same thing with emotions. With strong emotions, you have to turn and face these emotions, um, because taking it back to our analogy with the ship, if that ship is at an angle, the wrong angle to that wave, is going to knock it over. Well, same thing with your emotions. If you're not dealing with them in a righteous, effective, practical way, they're going to sink you. You know what I'm saying? They're going to have negative effects on you. So that's why I use the analogy of navigating the emotional storm. Um, it doesn't even occur to most people that they can navigate an emotional storm. Most people that's it's not even in their reality that when strong emotions come over them, that there's anything that they can do. Okay. And because of that, because some people aren't even aware that they can do something other than go along with the emotion, with the emotions and the impulses that come up, because that doesn't even occur to them. um, there's a lot of hidden sin that, and the hidden sin is the sin that gets you, the sin you're not aware of, that's there. And this is with Satan, First Peter chapter 5's you on. In First Peter chapter 5, we're gonna start. We're gonna read verse 8. It tells you to be sober, to be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about, seeking whom he may devour. So he's literally looking to see who he can devour. And he's, if you ever see a lion stalk its prey, it's silent, it's moving slow, it's creeping along. And what is he looking for? He's looking for a weak link. He's looking for the weakest animal out there. He's looking for a way in. You know what I'm saying? And this is why this particular area is an important area to be aware of in your life. You know what I'm saying? Um, do you have strong emotions that well up or that get triggered in certain situations? Well, this, uh, what we're going into here, will help you in that. And like I said, a lot of people don't realize that, hey, when you're in the midst of strong emotions and you're feeling that, it you might want to just take a sec and look at it. But a lot of people are so uncomfortable, you know, being in that, they just have to give full vent to it, to whatever emotional impulse comes up. Um, what I wrote here is, when you're in your feelings, everything operating on you or in you is on full display for your self examination. So, one, one of the times that it's the easiest to get a glimpse at what's operating in you is when you are in your feelings, when you are um, in the emotional storm. It's almost like one of those snow globes that they have. It's full of water, and you shake it up, and when it's shook up, you can see the snow coming down in it. But if it's just at rest, you don't see anything in it. You know what I'm saying? Um, so what I wrote, the emotional storm is one of the best times to make deep observations on what's going on in you. Okay? And but this is completely totally counterintuitive to how people have been conditioned and how we're just used to operating. We're used to emotional coming up, not scrutinizing it, not bringing it into captivity, and not evaluating it to see if it's exalting itself against the knowledge of Yah. We're not used to doing that. You see what I'm saying? We just used to emotional impulse, response, and nothing in between. You see what I'm saying? And this, over time, will sink your ship. This is how wickedness sets in. Um, so we already read that. So what this is what I talked about earlier. Realize that you do not have to respond to the emotional impulses, and that you can observe them. The best thing to do when you start out on this is to journal. So if you're going through something and it's super strong, you need to just write it down. I did that for years. I'm thinking it was like 3 or 4 thick ass books, like this much paper, okay? And like 3 books of that where I was just journaling, writing stuff down, capturing it on paper, you know. And then as I went on, it's like you're able to just do it without writing it down, you know. But the reason you write it down is because uh, what I wrote here, write down what you're feeling in the heat of the moment. That way you don't forget about it. Okay. Um, it, it because once that emotion's gone, it's almost like you can't even recall what exactly you were feeling and everything. But when you're in the heat of it, you can really capture what you're feeling. And then when you come back and read it later, you could be like, oh, it'll bring it back. And then you could go in even deeper. And it's like, oh, that came from that. And what you're doing is bringing this stuff into the light. And like that Bible verse says, bringing those thoughts into captivity. And you're looking at them to make sure these thoughts are not trying to exalt themselves above what the word says. So a lot of times we'll get into an emotional state and it'll cause us to sin. Okay? Um I wrote here, if you're full of pride, you'll be convinced you're right and you won't be able to observe yourself because you will be too busy projecting outward. So you'll be too busy looking at what you think the issue is. You're too focused on that to do what you should do in any situation. Look at yourself too. Consider yourself. Like that's what a wise, righteous person's going to do. Or I said, you'll believe what other people are telling you and never take a good, honest, righteous, humble look at yourself. And the reason I say that is because um, I wrote here, when you are convinced it is never you, it will be hard to do self-examination. So this is what a lot of prideful people or people with a spirit of fear and stuff like that, this is how they operate. And the reality is, it's always at least, at a bare minimum, it's always at least 50% you. It's always you. At least 50% in any situation or whatever. Okay? So, and a lot of people, they come, oh, they were pushing my buttons. And I heard this dude say a good saying on this. He was like, people, people will say, hey, he pushes my buttons. She pushes my buttons. Okay? But it's not about people pushing your buttons. It's about removing the buttons people press. You don't need to have no buttons for people to press. So this is, again, a good example of how people get caught up in the thinking, looking outward, and they're not looking inward and doing things so that, hey, you know, growing and developing so that they don't have to be in certain types of situations or certain things happening or whatever. Okay? When you're humble, you will always take that painful, difficult look at yourself. And the more humble you get, the easier it takes, or the easier it is to take this look at yourself. The more desire you have to walk righteously, because you understand that you can walk in peace and have life and life more abundantly if you deal with these things operating in you. So you'll have a higher, holier, righteous desire to get yourself right because you get it. You understand the benefits. So it'll be a lot easier to look at yourself because you got a true understanding of who you really are. You don't have this diluted, high, lofty opinion of who you really are. And you're not just going around saying words, oh yeah, I'm a mess. But you really go in and do this work and like, yeah, man, you're able to see and be more effective in having life and life more abundantly rather than trying to change all this stuff around you. You could change your inner work and be way more effective having peace and having life and having it more abundantly if you do that work if you do the work that way. um, when you've hit rock bottom or when you're sick and tired of your own crap, you will have a desire and a motivation for self-examination and to go through these storms. Like I said earlier, emotions are fleeting. So like journaling is a big thing. Um, and fleeting means lasting for a very short time. Um, most storms don't last that long. So you weather the storm. You navigate through that thing. Um, what I wrote here is someone can be skillfully navigate, or someone who's a skillful navigator um, is going to be able to navigate through the storms. Um, let me see what I wrote here. What I wrote here got a little jacked up. Okay, so and as you navigate through the storms, you're going to become even more skillful navigating through storms. But you also need to figure out how'd you get caught in the storm. What did you miss about, when you were plotting your course? What'd you miss? Where was the secrets in that? You know what I'm saying? What was going on that got you caught in the storm? Um, and like I said, most of the storms don't last long. The storms that do last long, and that are super powerful, like hurricanes, you should be able to navigate around those if you are even a decent sailor. So the storms that are a big hurricane, you should be able to navigate around the storm, change course, and you should know that that's coming and not have to go through that storm. You understand what I'm saying? So, um, you know, and that directly ties into emotions too. You know what I'm saying? Strong emotional situations. There's a lot of situations when you're being obedient to the word are big red flags. You know what I'm saying? What I see is a lot of people getting caught up in little storms that they didn't see coming. But again, if you're a skilled navigator, and what is a skilled navigator in our analogy? That is a righteous saint being obedient to the word. You'll go right through that storm. Um, this is a key part to these emotional storms. Is Sirach chapter 2, verse 1. We're going to start at verse 1. We're going to read to 5. It says, "My son, if thou come to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Set thy heart aright and constantly endure. And make no haste in time of trouble. Cleave unto him and depart not away, that thou mayest be increased at thy last end." So it tells you to cleave, to stand firm. But listen to this. So this is the key part about navigating through these emotional storms, okay? And dealing with emotion is this scripture here. It says, "Whatsoever is brought upon thee, take cheerfully, and be patient when thou art changed to a low estate." So you have to be patient in the emotional storm and not freak out and be impulsive and go along with your feelings. You need to scrutinize those feelings and make sure how you're moving lines up with the word. Or like the word says, you need to make sure they're not trying to exalt themselves against the knowledge of Yah. And you need to make sure you bring those thoughts into captivity. You know what I mean? So this is being at peace as you go through this storm. Um, because it tells you, "For gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in the furnace of adversity." And, next time y'all are in an emotionally charged situation, you need to sit there and actually catch yourself and not just fly off the hook and get frustrated. And look, it don't feel good, bro. I get it, brothers and sisters. You got to learn how to be comfortable in the uncomfortable. Like, this is the mark of high levels of emotional intelligence of a person that would be called meek, wise, righteous. You know what I'm saying? Is feeling those emotional impulses, but not getting carried away with them. Okay? Because, like I said, gold is tried in the fire, and acceptable men in a furnace of adversity. And once you see this, then you be able to discern, oh, yeah, that dude is getting burned up in this furnace of adversity. But he not gonna come out acceptable. The fire gonna burn him up because, or you see another person, they go through the adversity and they're taking it, even though they feeling crazy and it's emotional, but they're taking it. Okay, um, so solutions. We went over the main ones, the main solutions, spiritual solutions are prayer, fasting, seeking the Lord, supplication. That's what all that stuff's called. Deliverance, getting deliverance, being aware of what spirits are operating in you. Now, something I've seen, something I know also, a lot of times, because of people's diet and nutrition, they tend to be on very full of anxiety a lot of times. Or you could have mineral imbalance, neurotransmitter imbalance. You could have certain imbalances due to diet or just conditions and stuff like that. And through supplementation and proper diet, what you'll find is it will take off the edge on of anxiety and certain types of emotions, depression, this, that, and the other. Um, that's real, you know. And so these are things that need to be considered. But at the end of the day, the step one is seeking the Father, praying to Him, asking, "Yah, show me." Just like the prayer in Psalms, it says, "Cleanse me, O Yah, from secret sin." So there, cleanse me. Seek the Father. Ask Him to reveal to you things operating in you that you might be unaware of. So, lastly, you have to know when it's time. You you have to recognize when it's time to make adjustments, and you need to be able to implement them. That's a big one. I'm a you know that's not just recognizing what's going on, but actually implementing the change to it, putting it into action. And I'll tell you, a lot of recognizing that is a big part of recognizing that and putting it into action. Literally, just comes with when you become aware of what's operating behind the scenes in you. So that's a big part of it. But that is how you navigate an emotional storm. I appreciate all y'all tuning in. Definitely subscribe. If you got questions, put it in the comments or send it to that email. That email address is right there on the screen. I'm Michael Israel. Shalom, shalom.